We often see success dressed in its finest robes, shining stages, applause, the visible triumphs that dazzle the world. Yet what we rarely notice is the quiet ache beneath it, the unseen nights of doubt, the silent sacrifices, the moments when the soul felt like it was breaking before it could rise. Success is not a straight line, but a winding path where pain and perseverance walk hand in hand, weaving a deeper story than victories alone could ever tell. Perhaps life, in its divine wisdom, knew that beauty is only born through struggle, that strength is sculpted not in ease, but in fire. Each success story is not simply a celebration. It is a testimony of resilience, of hidden battles fought in the unseen. And when you begin to see your own pain this way, not as punishment but as preparation, you'll understand. The cracks you carry are not flaws. They are where the light enters your story. We live in a world that loves the highlight reel. Success is paraded like a trophy, polished and perfect under bright lights. We scroll through social media, watch documentaries, hear interviews, and what do we see? The shining end result, the applause. The big moment, the #1 hit, the promotion, the book deal, the perfect life tied up in a bow. And without realizing it, we start believing that maybe success looks like that. Clean, smooth, effortless. We start to think that if our journey doesn't look like that, then maybe something is wrong with us. But let's stop here for a moment and really ask, is success ever effortless? Has anyone in history achieved something meaningful without walking through the fire? Think about it. Every person you admire, every inventor, artist, leader, athlete, every overnight success, their journey was paved with long nights, self-doubt, rejection, criticism, and setbacks that nearly broke them. But you don't always see those chapters because they're hidden, they're not glamorous, they're not Instagram worthy. That's the illusion we live under, the illusion that success comes without pain, that if we were truly meant for it, it would come easily. But the truth is, the path to success is a paradox. What looks effortless from the outside is, almost always, the product of unseen struggle on the inside. I'll tell you something powerful. Success isn't just about what you win, it's about what you endure to win. It's not just the applause at the end, it's the moments you almost gave up but didn't. The nights when you cried in silence and still woke up the next day to try again. The doubts that screamed at you and the courage that whispered louder. That is the real story, the hidden story behind every success. And when you start to see it like this, something shifts. Suddenly, the challenges you face right now don't feel like evidence that you're failing. They feel like evidence that you're on the path. That the very struggles you want to escape are the very struggles shaping you into someone capable of holding success when it finally arrives. Here's what I know. Pain and progress are inseparable. You cannot build strength in comfort. You cannot find clarity without first walking through confusion. You cannot rise without first stumbling. Success and struggle are not opposites. They are partners in the same dance. And every time you take a step forward, even through pain, you're writing the story of your success in real time. Now think about your own life. Think about the victories you've already had, no matter how small. Think about the challenges you had to overcome to get there. Were they easy? Of course not. And yet, weren't they the very things that made the achievement meaningful? Would the diploma matter if you hadn't wrestled with the late nights of studying, the failures, the doubts? Would the promotion matter if you hadn't endured the frustration, the mistakes, the criticism? Would the love you cherish today mean as much if you hadn't first walked through heartbreak and loneliness? This is the hidden truth. Pain is the price tag of meaning. Success is not success because it came easy. It's success because you pushed through what tried to stop you. But here's the challenge. We live in a culture that sells shortcuts, a culture that whispers if it's hard, it's wrong. If it hurts, you're failing. If you're struggling, you're not good enough. That's a lie. Hard does not mean wrong. Hard means real. Hard means alive. Hard means you're in the middle of growth. So the next time you're in that place, the place where you feel like giving up, where the road feels impossible, I want you to remember this. You are not off track. You are not broken. You are in the exact place where success begins, because behind every polished story of achievement is someone who once stood exactly where you are, tired, uncertain, hurting, and chose to keep going. And that choice, that quiet, stubborn decision to move forward in the face of struggle, is the real success story. Everything else, the trophies, the applause, the recognition, those are just the echoes of what you've already won in the shadows. So don't let the illusion fool you. Don't envy the highlight reels. Don't believe the lie that success should feel easy. The pain you carry is not proof of failure. It is the hidden chapter of success being written in your life right now. And when you finally arrive at your moment, when the world sees the finished picture, you'll know something they don't. That behind every success story, including yours, there is always a hidden pain. Success doesn't happen in spite of pain, it happens because of it. We don't like pain, let's be honest. We avoid it, we numb it, we run from it. We convince ourselves that if we could just sidestep the hurt, life would be easier, cleaner, smoother. And yet, if you look back on the moments that shaped you most, wasn't it always the struggle that carved something new in you? Pain is the silent sculptor of character. It chisels away at who you think you are so you can become who you were always meant to be. It breaks down the false walls you've built, the ego, the pride, the illusions, and reveals the raw, unshakable core of your being. That's what pain does. It strips away what's shallow and leaves you with what's true. Think about it. The people you admire most, the ones who radiate wisdom, depth, strength, do you think they got there through comfort? Or did life press them, crack them, and force them to grow in ways they never imagined? Behind their calm presence is a storm they've survived. Behind their strength is a weight they've carried. Behind their resilience is a loss, a failure, a heartbreak that forged something eternal in them. And maybe that's the divine design of pain. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Preparation for the life you're meant to live. Preparation for the strength you'll need when greater challenges come. Preparation for the wisdom required to not just succeed, but to sustain success with humility and grace. See, here's the thing. Success without character is hollow. It collapses. We've seen it. People who reach the top without ever being forged by struggle. They rise quickly but fall just as fast because the foundation was never strong enough to hold the weight. But when pain sculpts you, when you've been pressed and stretched and tested, your success has roots. It's steady, it lasts. I know it's not easy to hear this when you're in the middle of pain, because in the middle it doesn't feel like sculpting. It feels like breaking. It feels like loss. It feels like everything you thought you were is falling apart. And in many ways it is, but that's the point. Pain is subtractive before it's additive. It takes away what no longer serves you so it can leave behind what will sustain you. The truth is, you don't even realize who you're becoming while you're in it. It's only when you look back that you see the strength that grew in the cracks, the wisdom that bloomed in the silence, the compassion that was born out of your own heartbreak. That's why pain is silent. It works quietly beneath the surface until one day you wake up and realize you're not the same person you once were. You're stronger, you're deeper, you're more alive. And here's the beautiful paradox. The very thing you thought would destroy you becomes the thing that defines you. The scar becomes the story. The struggle becomes the strength. The brokenness becomes the breakthrough. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what is this shaping in me? That shift alone can change everything, because suddenly the pain isn't pointless. It's purposeful. It's sculpting. It's refining. It's preparing you for something greater than you can see right now. When you begin to see pain through this lens, you stop fighting it and start learning from it. You realize it's not the enemy, it's the artist. and you are the masterpiece being carved in real time. So if you're in that space right now, hurting, doubting, grieving, struggling, I want you to hear me. You are not being destroyed. You are being shaped. You are being prepared. You are in the hands of a sculptor who knows exactly what you're capable of becoming. And one day, when you stand in the light of your success, you will carry with you a depth and resilience that can never be shaken. Because it wasn't the easy days that made you who you are. It was the painful ones. Pain doesn't break you. It builds you into the person strong enough to carry the weight of your own greatness. There's a part of the success story that no one really talks about. We love to celebrate the mountaintop, but very few people are willing to talk about the climb, and even fewer are willing to admit just how lonely it can feel on the way up. See, the truth is, success often requires you to walk a road that very few are willing to walk. It means saying no when everyone else says yes. It means late nights when the rest of the world is asleep. It means sitting in silence with your own thoughts, wrestling with self, doubt, questioning whether the sacrifices you're making will ever be worth it. That silence, that separation, that solitude can feel heavy, and sometimes it feels like abandonment. But here's what I want you to remember. The loneliness of the climb is not emptiness. It's not a void. It's a sacred space of transformation. It's where you discover what you're made of when there's no audience cheering, no spotlight shining, no one telling you you're on the right path. It's where your conviction is tested. It's where your inner compass gets stronger because you learn to walk by faith instead of validation. Think about the times you've sat alone in the quiet, unsure of what's next. That's not wasted space. That's holy ground. That's where clarity comes. That's where resolve takes root. That's where the noise of the world fades, and you hear the whisper of who you are and who you're becoming. It's easy to mistake loneliness for failure. To think, if no one understands me, maybe I'm on the wrong path. But loneliness doesn't mean you're lost. It often means you're exactly where you need to be, because the climb to your highest potential isn't meant to be crowded. It requires focus, it requires sacrifice, and sometimes it requires walking alone. And here's the paradox. The loneliness that feels so isolating now is actually building the strength you'll need later. Because success at the top comes with its own form of isolation. The higher you climb, the fewer people there are who truly understand the weight you carry. If you can't handle the solitude on the way up, you won't be able to handle the solitude when you get there. So instead of fearing the loneliness, lean into it. See it for what it really is, preparation. Those quiet nights, they're not empty. They're building resilience. Those moments when it feels like no one believes in you, they're not evidence that you're wrong. They're teaching you to believe in yourself. Those sacrifices that no one sees, they're not forgotten. They're the hidden foundation of your future. And maybe, just maybe, that loneliness is the universe's way of stripping away distractions so you can hear the truth of your own calling. Because when you're surrounded by noise, it's easy to live for approval. But when it's just you and the silence, you learn to live for something deeper. So if you're in that season right now, where you feel like no one gets it, where you're walking a path that feels isolating, I want you to hold on. You are not alone in your loneliness. Every great story has chapters of solitude. Every mountain climber has moments when the trail is empty. Every success story has nights where the dreamer sat in the dark and wondered if the vision was worth it. It always is, because the loneliness of the climb is not the end of your story. It's the proving ground of your strength. And when you finally reach the mountaintop, you'll look back and realize the solitude didn't weaken you. It fortified you. It carved a strength so deep that nothing, not even the weight of success, can shake you. The loneliness of the climb isn't a curse. It's the sacred silence where you are being shaped into someone unstoppable. When people see a success story, they often admire the finish line, but they rarely see the toll it took to get there. We're conditioned to celebrate the highlight reel, the glossy magazine cover, the moment someone makes it. But what doesn't make the headlines are the sacrifices, the unseen prices quietly paid in the shadows. Because here's the truth, every success story is built on trade-offs. You cannot rise without giving something up. And most of the time, it's not glamorous, it's not exciting, it's painfully ordinary things that no one talks about. Time, comfort, relationships, certainty. Think about it. Every hour you pour into building a dream is an hour you don't spend somewhere else. Every dollar you invest in your vision is a dollar you don't spend on ease or security. Every boundary you set, every no you say, every weekend you choose discipline over distraction. That's sacrifice. And no one tells you how heavy that feels when you're in it. How saying no to what everyone else is doing can feel like rejection. How missing birthdays or dinners or lazy weekends sometimes feels like missing life itself. How choosing the long road of delayed gratification when everyone else is living for instant rewards can make you wonder if you've lost your way. But let me tell you something that few people will. Those sacrifices are not signs of weakness. They're not evidence that you're missing out. They're proof that you're investing in something deeper, something more enduring. Success isn't about what you gain. It's about what you're willing to give up along the way. And here's the paradox. Those sacrifices that feel like losses in the moment often become the very things that give meaning to the success later. Think about the late nights, the missed sleep, the social events you walked away from, the comfort zones you abandoned. Those choices weren't punishments, they were exchanges. You traded temporary ease for lasting fulfillment. You traded approval for authenticity. You traded short-term comfort for long-term growth. And while no one celebrates those choices in real time, when the results show up, when the doors open, when the vision starts to unfold, suddenly, those sacrifices don't feel like losses anymore. They feel like seeds. Seeds that grew into something you couldn't see at the time, but something you always hoped was possible. There's a line I want you to carry with you. Sacrifice is the hidden currency of greatness. Nobody talks about it, but everybody pays it. And the only difference between those who give up and those who break through is whether they see those sacrifices as wasted or as invested. And let's be honest, it hurts sometimes. The sacrifice hurts. It's not poetic in the moment. It's not beautiful when you're tired, when you're missing people, when you feel behind. But pain does not mean punishment. Pain often means progress. The ache of sacrifice is proof that you're stretching, that you're moving beyond the ordinary into the extraordinary. And here's what I want you to hear. The pain is temporary, but the payoff is permanent. The discomfort of sacrifice is fleeting, but the strength, the resilience, the clarity it gives you, that stays with you forever. So don't run from sacrifice. Don't resent it. Respect it. See it for what it is, the hidden evidence that you're building something that matters. Because when you finally stand in the light of your success, when you finally look back on the road you traveled, you won't regret the sacrifices you made. You'll be grateful for them, because they were the price of the life you were always meant to live. Sacrifice is not the loss of something valuable. It is the silent investment that transforms dreams into destiny. Pain, it's the one thing we all spend our lives trying to avoid. We run from it, we numb it, we disguise it, we tell ourselves stories that make it less sharp. But here's the paradox. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is often your teacher, and yet most of us mistake it for punishment. Something must be wrong, we think. Something must be broken. If I'm struggling, if I'm hurting, then maybe I'm not meant to be on this path. Maybe I'm failing. But what if pain isn't here to punish you? What if it's here to prepare you? Think about it. Every single thing in nature grows through resistance. A seed must break apart in the dark soil before it pushes toward the light. A butterfly must wrestle against the cocoon, straining its wings against what feels like confinement, before it ever has the strength to fly. Even your own body knows this truth. Muscle doesn't grow without strain, without tension. without tiny tears that make way for new strength. So why do we believe our lives should be any different? Why do we treat our own pain as evidence that we're failing instead of seeing it as the very preparation required for our next chapter? Here's the truth. The hardest seasons of your life were not wasted. They were rehearsals. They were shaping you for something you couldn't yet see. That heartbreak that shattered you, it taught you how to love with more compassion. That job you lost, it forced you to build resilience and adaptability. That rejection that stung so deeply, it carved out space for the opportunity you were really meant for. Pain is rarely pleasant, but it is always purposeful. And when you shift your lens from punishment to preparation, you begin to see how every challenge carries within it a hidden gift. I want you to think of a time you thought you wouldn't make it through. Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was failure. Maybe it was standing in the middle of chaos and feeling like the ground beneath you had collapsed. You thought you were being undone, but here you are. You survived it, and not just survived. You are stronger, wiser, more aware because of it. That's not punishment. That's preparation. See, life doesn't hand out easy victories. It shapes you through friction. It forges you in fire. It tempers you in the heat of struggle. Because if success came without pain, without failure, without loss, you wouldn't be ready to hold it. You wouldn't have the depth, the gratitude, or the strength to sustain it. And this is where the beauty lies. Pain expands you. It stretches the edges of who you are. It forces you to dig deeper than you thought possible. And in that digging, you uncover parts of yourself you didn't know existed: resilience, courage, vision, patience. But here's the key. You must decide what the pain means. You get to write the story. Does it mean you're cursed, unlucky, punished? Or does it mean you are being prepared, sharpened, strengthened for the very thing you once prayed for? That's the power of reframing. The moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" everything changes. And listen, this doesn't make pain easy. It doesn't make struggle fun. It doesn't mean you should pretend everything's okay when it's not, but it gives meaning to what would otherwise feel meaningless. It transforms suffering into seed. So the next time you find yourself in a season of loss, of failure, of deep pain, don't shrink back. Don't give up. Don't assume life is punishing you. Instead, ask, what strength is this building in me? What lesson is being planted here that I'll need tomorrow? Because one day you'll look back, and the very moments that once felt unbearable will reveal themselves as necessary. You'll see that the pain that almost broke you was the same force that built you. And you'll realize that what you thought was punishment was, all along, preparation for the life you were meant to live. Pain is not proof that life is against you. It is evidence that life is preparing you for more than you can yet imagine. We spend so much of our lives trying to hide our cracks. We polish the surface, we perfect the image, we cover the scars because we're convinced that if people see where we've broken, they'll think less of us. We tell ourselves success is about looking untouchable, flawless, unshaken. But here's the truth. It's not the perfection that makes your story powerful. It's the cracks. It's the parts of you that have been tested, stretched, and scarred. Those are the places that hold the weight of your real story. Think about the Japanese art of kintsugi. When pottery breaks, instead of throwing it away, they mend it with gold. They don't try to hide the cracks. They highlight them. The fractures become the most beautiful part of the vessel. It's more valuable after being broken than it ever was when it was whole. What if your life is the same? What if your cracks, the heartbreak, the failures, the disappointments, are not flaws to be hidden but sacred places where light can enter? What if the very things you've tried to bury are the most powerful parts of your story? Because here's the paradox of success. People aren't inspired by the trophies on your shelf. They're inspired by the story of what it took to earn them. They're not moved by your highlight reel. They're moved by your cracks, your struggles, the nights you thought you'd quit but didn't. The cracks are where we connect, Nobody can relate to perfection, but everybody can relate to pain. And when you share yours, when you stop hiding it, you give other people permission to see their own differently. That's the hidden beauty of brokenness. It's not just for you. Your scars hold medicine for someone else. Your survival carries a map for the person who feels lost right now. That thing you went through, the thing you thought would ruin you, becomes the bridge someone else needs to cross their own valley. And maybe this is the greatest gift of failure, of loss, of struggle. Not that it makes us tougher, not that it builds resilience, but that it makes us human, that it teaches us compassion, that it cracks us open just enough for the light to seep through, and in doing so, makes us more whole than we ever were when we looked perfect. I want you to sit with this for a second. What are the cracks in your story that you've been trying to hide? What if instead of hiding them, you honored them? What if you saw them not as shame but as strength, not as evidence of weakness but as evidence that you lived, that you tried, that you loved, that you dared? Because the cracks prove you've been in the arena. They prove you've taken the hits, fallen down, gotten back up. They prove you didn't stay safe in the shadows, that you risked something real. And isn't that what life is? A series of risks, of leaps, of attempts that sometimes fail and sometimes soar, but always leave us changed. When you start to see your cracks this way, something shifts. Suddenly, instead of hiding your story, you start to share it. Instead of pretending you're flawless, you let people see the human behind the mask. And in that vulnerability, you find freedom. Because success isn't about never breaking. It's about what you do with the pieces. It's about choosing to let the cracks become art instead of shame. It's about allowing the light in and then carrying that light forward to illuminate someone else's path. So yes, the cracks hurt. Yes, the fractures sometimes feel unbearable, but they are not the end of your story. They are the opening. They are proof that you've been transformed. And when you allow them to shine, you don't just tell the world who you are. You remind the world who they are too. It is through the cracks that the light enters, and it is through the cracks that your true story is revealed. Raw, imperfect, and infinitely more beautiful.